Hello. This is the second installment of the Read Me Something rewards for Reich E. Spore's Patreon. We are currently reading Polychrome, a romantic fantasy. Prologue 2. The door to the throne room was flung open. Framed in that huge portal was a delicate figure of a girl, fair hair wild and tangled in an unwanted manner, cap askew, gossamer garments actually rent, torn, grimy and smeared with red-brown stains that spoke of a grimmer origin. The Rainbow Lord shot to his feet and started forward. Polychrome! His eldest daughter walked, not danced, walked, with a heavy foot so unlike the tread that could normally leap from a blade of grass and leave the dew on it barely marred. Father, Iris Mirabilis, my lord, I have returned from the mission on which you sent me. She clasped a bundle to her with one arm, gripped it to her like death. He caught the exhausted girl as she staggered. Fairy princess or not, she had clearly reached her limits. His heart was filled with dread, and he truly knew fear. He had hoped the thefts, like others in the past, had been something easily dealt with. But now... Forget the formalities, daughter mine. Are you injured? Be these stains of your blood? The thought filled him with both rage and horror. None had dared truly injure one of his children for time out of mind. Not that many even had the power to attempt it. Polychrome managed a weak smile. No. No, Father. Any blood is from those who pursued me. You fought them? He knew his daughter was unorthodox. She danced to earth often, forgetting the rainbow, wandering the world below until she wearied of it. Her dances were more than mere dancing, for she had modeled many of them on the training of his storm legions, a ballet not merely of beauty but of wind and lightning. But the thought that she not only could, but would fight. In a manner of speaking. Her voice rasped faintly, but with a touch of humor. He called immediately for wine. I led them on a merry chase through angered trees and invisible hazards, and invaded them many times despite their weapons. They harried me even to the skies above the desert and beyond, Father. Oh, Father! She suddenly pressed herself into his chest and began to sob. Oh, Father, it is all too terribly true. The Emerald City is gone. For a moment his mind simply refused to accept the words. Finally he said, What do you mean when you say, gone, my daughter? A servant appeared and proffered a goblet. Polychrome seized the cloud wine and drank the entire goblet in one long series of swallows, something startling and worrisome for a fairy princess who could normally subsist on a few dewdrops and mist cakes for a day or more. When she spoke again, however, her voice was smoother, and a touch of color was returning to cheeks that had been pale as morning mist. Gray stone, Father, she shuddered. Gray, cold stone, all of it. For a mile and more around the very towers of Ozma's palace, solid gray stone, and soldiers of stone and metal commanded by those who now rule from that grim mockery of what was. He nodded slowly. The disruptions in the very essence of the air had given him much cause to worry, and the rumors had been terrifying. But to hear it from his own child... Go on, Polychrome, he said gently. You did not take so long, or suffer so much, only seeing this transformation. The theft of things magical, that was how this began. Was it as they believed? Her violet blue eyes met his, and he saw the answer there before she spoke. Oh, yes, Father, but far cleverer, far more dangerous. And not alone. And none resist this abomination? Why do you think I stayed, Father? Polychrome's voice was sharp, angry, and he drew back in surprise. Many of them were my friends. I sought for them through the Quadling country, where I found the palace of Glinda in ruins, to the Munchkins fleeing in terror from the army sent to subdue their lands. I saw the Gillikin forest in flames. Tears burst out anew. Most of my friends were in the Emerald City when it happened. A council of war to determine how to locate their enemy, something their enemy had already planned upon. Ozma, Dorothy, the Cowardly Lion, the Wizard, Glinda, the Scarecrow, the Tin Woodman, all of them were there. She almost broke down, but in a show of discipline and strength that almost forced tears from the Rainbow Lord's own eyes, she took hold of her voice and heart and refused them the chance to retreat. I saw through the windows of the palace, Father. Saw the gray stone statues of the heroes of the realm, mortal girls and metal men, all stone, dead stone. And Ozma herself. She nodded slowly. Father, she is sealed within a crystal pyramid at the very doorway to the castle, facing the great courtyard where she must have been caught by whatever hideous spell they used. He was silent for a long moment. He watched as Polychrome took another goblet and sipped from it. Finally he spoke. You say they, Polychrome Glory. He rarely used both of her names, saving that for times of great import or great tenderness. And this, he judged, was a time for both, for his favorite daughter was sorely wounded in the heart, if not in the body. Who are they? For answer, Polychrome looked down and slowly loosed her grip on the bundle she held, with a wince from the pain that comes when loosing a near-death grip. She brought out an oddly shaped lumpy bundle and looked down at it. With a sigh, she reached in and removed first a long, gray envelope sealed with green wax. On it was inscribed, Iris Mirabilis, Lord of the Rainbows, in a spidery but elegant hand. Wordlessly, she extended the envelope to her father. He regarded the envelope for a moment, then broke the seal and withdrew the letter, which he read. To Iris Mirabilis, Lord of Rainbows and the 7 hues of heaven, greetings. As your lovely and accomplished daughter Polychrome has seen fit to visit our realm, newly acquired of Oz, and as there may be some confusion as to the status of this land, we send you this missive. Be it understood that all of Oz is now under our rule, and shall remain so, and that we have under our control all the power of that land, and can direct it as we will, even unto the power once belonging to Ozma its ruler, the sorceries of Glinda, the enchantments of the wizard, and all other manner of power held here. As Oz was and has always been the core of true fairy power, since its blessing by Lurline ages agone, you will recognize that we are now a greater power than any other. We do not seek warfare with you or the others of fairy or the enchanted lands above or below, but make no mistake, we shall tolerate no interference in our affairs. Leave us to ourselves, and all shall be well. Meddle, and whosoever has challenged us shall be destroyed. Each of us was vanquished once. We shall not be defeated again. We remain, sir, Ugu the Unbowed, King of Oz, and Amanita Verdant, Queen of Oz. The Rainbow Lord knew his face looked like a thundercloud as he set the letter down. So quickly it has happened, and they claim to control the power itself. But who is this Amanita, Polychrome? She gave another shudder, and he realized that Polychrome, his brave, undaunted, ever-cheerful daughter, was truly afraid of this unknown woman. Who is she? I have never heard this name before, my daughter, and yet you seem afraid of her, as though you knew who she was. Oh, I know her, my father. She it was who captured me once, held me prisoner, stripped me of my form and most of my power, kept me as a plaything and a pet, and would have done so perhaps forever, had not others come who gave me a chance at freedom. Shock caused him to draw in a breath. Her? That monstrous giantess, the Yukahu? She has taken a new name. But I thought that Princess Ozma had sealed her powers away in a form from which they could never be recovered. Perhaps her old form cannot be recovered, Father. But she has a new one, a beautiful human girl with hair green as emeralds. But I knew her when she laughed as the letter was given to me, for I'd heard that laugh many times. He remembered discovering how his missing daughter had been imprisoned. The thought of that monster loose again? But something still seems amiss. They caught you spying and sent you away with this letter. Why chase you and harry you near to death? Now Polychrome laughed, a laugh as joyful as a sudden ray of sunshine, and at the same time bright as a blade unsheathed. And he wondered at just what sort of girl he had fathered. Oh, not for that, Father, but for the fact that I sought allies and friends not yet imprisoned, and in the Winky country I found a few still fighting. But they were falling, and their king gave to me a final charge, and... Now, for the first time, she hesitated. Polychrome, what is it? Her jaw set for a moment, and then her shoulders slumped. He made me promise to give my charge only to you, but that I must leave the room, and am only to be told whatever you feel I must know. An unnamed dread began to creep over him. He held out his hand. Slowly, unwillingly, the girl let him take the bundle. He removed the wrappings. Within lay a pink stuffed bear, a small crank protruding from one side. Others might not have recognized the significance, but the rainbow saw many places indeed. This innocent, even silly-looking object was one of the most potent mystical objects, or beings, depending on how one viewed it, in all of Oz. The pink bear was a seer, a prophet, blessed or cursed with the ability to live only when the crank in its side was turned, and to think and speak and see into some place where the future, past, and present were all one, where distance was meaningless and walls non-existent, and speak of what it saw there. And the Lavender King? Polychrome turned her face away. They torched the forests. An appalled silence fell over the throne room. Finally he stood. You gave your word, my daughter. You must leave the room, while I hear the last words of one monarch to another on the fall of his allies and the loss of the greatest of the fairy lands. After a moment, Polychrome nodded. He gestured to the servants, who immediately came forward and helped Polychrome out. Her sisters, he knew, would help tend to her as well. He placed the bear on the arm of his throne and placed his magic upon it. The little pink bear would, at least, not have the indignity of relying on someone to turn that crank. It would turn itself until the bear desired it to stop. The little head turned jerkily and one paw came up. "Hail, Iris Mirabilis," the bear said in a high, childish voice. Then its head sagged and the eyes sparkled as though with tears. "My king is destroyed. My father is gone." "I know," he said softly, "and I have no words of comfort for you now, I fear. Your king and father sent you to me, in the hands of my daughter, risking her life and giving his own that she might escape, I would guess. Why?" Answering questions was what the bear had been created for. Its duty might not be warming, but it was familiar, and easier than feeling and grief. "To guide you, to show you the way." "There is a way to defeat these people, to restore Oz to what it should be?" It has not been what it should be for a long time. Mistakes were made. The little bear's words were more complex and cryptic than normal. Explain, Bear. Much power prevents me from speaking plainly. Some is my own. I am a prophet. Prophets speak as they must. The little bear paused, then spoke again. Balance was lost here. Balance is also lost without in the human world. Both must be regained. Both are needed. The Rainbow Lord nodded. The fairy had always relied on mortals for certain things, and the mortals had, in their turn, been supported by the fairy in much of their essence, even though these days they knew it less and less. Then tell me what must be done. 2 paths before, and the way never clear. The bear's voice was cold and hard now, the voice of a speaker of destiny. One brings you joy, the other filled with fear. All will hinge on the choice of one, a choice only made before it has begun. The words continued, and as the Rainbow Lord heard the prophecy unfold, his face became more and more grim. There were no certainties. Even the best path was fraught with danger and potential for mishaps. And in the end, it would cost him the most precious thing in all the world. But that was the price that true kings paid, all that they had.